What is going on, everybody? We're back at it with another edition of Operation Hangout. You read the title, you know we're talking about the new today's gaming crash. I think gaming crash is coming because the way our gaming systems are going, companies are buying each other's out. But before I get into it, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the share, and subscribe. Call your friends, call your aunt, call your uncle, call everybody. And also, as always, the link is in the description. If you want to join the conversation, please, cameras up, makeup on, smile, mic nice and loud. You know how to do it. It's always a good time and stuff like that. As always, I have my co-host, my brother in arms, my tech guy, as always, Black David, my man.
Good evening, guys. How you doing? Sorry for Thursday. I didn't show up. I was sick, but I'm back here. I'm a little bit better than ever.
First of
Today's
all, David,
topic.
how is your health overall?
Uh, I'm feeling myself a little bit more. I don't like to get sick. That's something I don't like. So I got caught off guard, but it's all good. But I'm
I don't
more
think
interested
anybody
about
likes getting
today's
sick.
topic. When you mentioned today's topic, game over the 2024 video game crash. That bring a lot of thought to mind. Like, what is the direction the gaming industry is going to? Because let's do a review. We have Google, PlayStation, and a few other companies were trying to do this online gaming whereby you don't have to use a console, you can log remotely and play your game online. And they thought that was going to work. The Google Stadia app did not last long.
Oh, that was a big crash. Don't forget fucking Facebook, bro. Fucking Facebook owns Oculus now too. They've been owning it for a
Oh,
while. The VR shit.
yeah, but the VR thing is not going too far with it because you got to look at who are the ones creating the game, the developers, right?
Hmm.
And if we have been paying attention over the past 2 decades, what is the number one issue when it comes with the developers? Think about it. I'll put a perfect example. The creator of Metal Gear Solid, he was given free creative right to do what he wanted to do with that game, and he was making masterpiece after masterpiece after masterpiece, right? All of a sudden, the high want to throw their balls around and say, no, what, why don't you do it? No, the dude was making masterpiece for you. When he making masterpiece, he was bringing in bread for you, right?
Hmm.
It's just like saying you brought in Popovich to be your coach for your team. The guy rearranging the team and bringing you championship. Who are you to tell him to do otherwise? Makes sense? So we have this issue whereby game developers are either getting burnt out or they're getting irritated or they feel like they don't have the creative freedom to make masterpiece games.
I agree, but my also pushback a little bit here is when they're pushing games out, they're already broken.
Go ahead.
They're not completely. That is one of my issues. Go ahead, David.
And why is the game broken, to be honest? No, I'm not asking that question. Why is the game being broken? Because this is something I've been trying to. We talked about the gaming industry of the yesteryears. When the game was complete, it wasn't broken.
Yeah, it was last week's topic.
I know, but those games last longer than today's games. Did it
I
not?
gave you a great example. Super Mario Brothers. Super Mario Bros. 2 wasn't the greatest game, but Super Mario Bros. 3 or Super Mario World for Super Nintendo, those Nintendo games, they couldn't send them broken because there was no way to fix them afterwards. They had some glitches, and nothing to be perfect. I'll give you that. But they made sure it was perfect. Before we move on, let's get him here. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for President elect. Why is my sound effects not working? That's weird.
It's good, guys.
What's going on, Paul? How are you?
I am well.
So, David, go ahead, so I can figure out what's going on with my sound effects really fast.
Um,
I mean, sorry, David, go first. Then, Paul, you go next. Go ahead.
The thing is, when you talk about game being broken, the reason why they have it broken is before that thing called DLC, downloadable content. That was something I was looking at. I was trying to ask myself, who thought of this idea? Whereby,
Working out.
and not only working out, but you build a game, you give people the option to buy the downloadable content. It worked well for Tekken, don't get me wrong. Those fighting game, it worked perfectly well. Now, when you're playing games that have multiple level, multiple map, he thought to ask the question, what's the main purpose of it?
Okay.
What are really behind it? Are you expanding the storyline? Are you expanding the map? Are you adding things that have been put into work? If that was the case, I would agree. If that's not the case, I would not agree. For example, Fortnite. That game is forever broken. It was meant to be that way so they can put all type of shenanigans in there. I never liked the game not one bit. I've been trying to figure out why people love the game because it's so idiotic. It was so extremely stupid.
I'm not going to argue there.
But what for what reason? If you're doing it for Star Wars, you are doing it in a way where you're not only breaking down the stages, you're breaking down the storyline because it's a massive storyline with dealing with Star Wars. Let's be real.
Hmm.
If you were to create Lord of the Rings game whereby it would be nothing but a DLC broken game, whereby every year there's a new path that'll open the new doorway to a new storyline and you venture in. That would have been the case. Grand Theft Auto is another one. Certain games I would agree to that format because for one, you look at the storyline, you look at the name of that game, you look at how it was built up to be. Anything like shooting, fighting, basketball, no shooting, fighting, or sport, I would say it's meant to be broken because every year there's a draft. What was it? Cody King said they put F4G Go Tree so that public can reject it. Oh,
I'll give you a better example, and then I'll have Paul come in.
good point, good point.
I'll give you a better example. They came out so broken, so many problems. Cyberpunk.
Oh,
Cyberpunk was
oh,
supposed to be the game of
oh,
the year. It's supposed to be the highest graphics, the highest. They had top actors. What was that? Keanu Reeves was supposed to be one of the villains. He was, but it was so many problems. It wasn't even funny, dude. I couldn't. I
the,
couldn't finish it. That's how bad it was.
the way that game was being pushed out, I felt that would be real bad because here's the problem. You cannot enjoy that game full features unless you have an overpower PC. It wasn't going to work too well on the game console.
Or if you had a high definition TV,
Gaming monitor,
that too.
good high resolution TV. You're talking about a 4K TV. How much for a 4K TV? Somebody do the math. Hmm. Now, I mentioned PC. I'm talking about you are stacking up the deck in your PC. You got 128 gigs of RAM. You had a 24 gig video card, or you had two video cards in your motherboard. You got about almost 20 terabyte of NVMe hard drive space in your PC motherboard. Your motherboard PC, whatever I would call it. You got a massive processor, an i9 processor, or a one of the highest end AMD processor. You have that thing on a custom water block. You
Hmm.
water cool that bad boy, and you overclocking it. And then when you go into the game, before you start the game, you put on maximum setting where you get the full graphic, and you got that high resolution game. You know how much these gaming monitors going right now?
Mine right here is sitting over 1,500.
My point exactly. They're like
But mine's also a
240.
49 fucking inch. This is a
But
fucking
the thing
beast.
is, the revolution, 240 hertz, 360 hertz.
Dude, if you really think about the original gaming systems that got it in our homes, I'm not talking about Atari, I'm talking like what really popped the gaming series.
I know.
Super Nintendo, Game Gear, those
Hmm
64 big, all that stuff. Before we move on, Paul, open thoughts. What are you thinking about the conversation we're having?
Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to add a lot to the current situation. Like I said, I'm not that involved or follow the current gaming industry. However, just from the comments that have been posted in the chat so far, I still think there's some similarities to a foregone era. Remember, I grew up in a time when, again, you had the boom of the consoles, of the standing arcade games, of arcades and the like, and the birth of these home video game systems. And I lived through what was called the North American video game crash of 1983. So I remember that era very well. I remember the boom 1980, 81, 82 when Pac-Man came out in 80. Ms. Pac-Man came out in 83. Defender, Centipede, all those great arcade games, legendary games, like I said, Defender, as I said earlier, that came out in that time. Joust, Cubert, Star Wars, the original Vectrex game that came out. I mean, huge. There was hundreds of thousands of gaming consoles throughout the United States in arcades, bowling alleys, again, local convenience stores, you named it, the flea markets. It was such a boom. And you also had a boom because, again, people couldn't get enough. You also had a boom in home gaming consoles. So, again, right now, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, there's basically two players now. You have Xbox and you have PlayStation.
You still have Nintendo out there, but yes.
Okay, Nintendo, right? Now, consider this. You had, and by 1983, you had Atari 2600, Atari 5200, ColecoVision, Intellivision, Vectrex, Odyssey, Odyssey 2. And those are straight up gaming platforms. I didn't talk about the computers yet. Right? The Atari 800, the Apple IIe, the Commodore VIC-20, the Commodore 64. So you had all of these video game consoles and the boom of computers, the rise in computers. So you had a lot of people jockeying for space.
That is true.
In that time with very limited resources. So again, 1983, the most you could do was 8 bits. You guys are talking about terabytes. You had 8 bytes. 2 to the 8th power, 256. That's it. That's all you had for these home video game systems. So, in such a crowded space, there was such a competition to get out games, and you had games being produced by companies that weren't even in gaming. Purina Dog Chow, the dog food company, made a video game that basically, if you bought a certain amount, you turned in a voucher, whatever they were churning out video games. So everybody was in it because they saw the boom. Everybody was trying to make money in the industry. And as a result, because of such a crowded field, decisions were made to come out with games that were garbage. So when Atari bought the rights to Pac-Man in 1983, the port of it was so horrible that people and they dumped millions. I think they might have paid like $21 million for the license for it, which, again, this is 1983 money. And they also came out. Remember, E.T. came out in 1983. The president of the company that produced the studio that produced E.T., the president that also owned Atari, said that he wanted an E.T. video game by Christmas, which was 6 weeks away. They made 5 million copies of the E.T. game. They only sold 1 million. That year, 1983, Atari lost over $500 million. Now, again,
Damn.
in 1983 money. And all those other gaming consoles, people said, I had enough. You coming out with crappy games. I'd rather go to the arcade. Yes, I'm going to spend, quarters in those machines hand over fist, but at least I'm going to have a better gaming experience than what you guys are giving me here. And so a lot of crap games were coming out, even though the systems could do more. I know you could only get so much out of 8-bit, but certainly they didn't put the time in. And you had a lot of these games being developed by companies that really weren't trying to give users a true gaming experience at home. And people said, I'm done. And so the crash of 1983 was basically due to, one, oversaturation, too many companies, too many spoons in the soup, trying to get a piece, and crappy games. The quality was so bad that why am I spending this money? People were spending $40, $50 for a game, again, back in 1983. And so people were like, look, parents were like, look, I'm sorry, Johnny, you're not getting an Odyssey 2 for what we're getting, which is basically blips and dots on the screen, is relatively speaking. I'll take it to the arcade on Saturday night. In fact, one of my big thrills was my sister lived with her actually for a while, and her and some girlfriends, they would go to the bowling alley. Had a big bowling alley out here on Saturday nights. That was like a routine that they had developed for a while. And so that used to be the thrill of my week, because the bowling alley had all the games. They had the Star Wars game. They even had the Star Wars game you could sit in. They had all kinds of, pool table. I mean, it was like I said, it was just a big thrill. I mean, the only thing was just making sure I might have had maybe $2 to $3, but that was gold to me to be able to go and do that. But the home consoles, yeah, I had them. I had one of the initial Telestar systems, found that in a garage sale or something. And it was literally like these knobs, you hook it up to your TV, and there was these knobs that you would play left and right so that the bar would go. So you play tennis or pong or whatever it was, it would slide back and forth. So I go back pretty much to the very beginning when these, if you didn't have the video game console, you had the handheld, like the Mattel football, Mattel baseball, Mattel basketball.
Yeah, I remember.
I know Eric's in here. He knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I remember.
So that was the world that we were in. It was in blips and dots and not a whole
and pew, 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 pew.
But there were some games that were good. Like Pitfall was a game changer. Pitfall was one of the best ports that was ever done for. Well, it wasn't even a port. It was actually an original game. And in fact, Pitfall might have been the first game because, again, the model back then was arcade games were intended to be played for a few minutes before you had to cough over some more quarters. But as I said in last week's show, some guys got really good at it to the point where they can make that quarter stretch a long way. And you used to have tournaments. You used to have champions. You used to have competition amongst the best players in the world. So it was almost like Olympic level in terms of the competition for the in those for those gaming consoles. And then like I said, you had this booming. Like I said, people couldn't get enough. They wanted these home boxes. But again, but the model was you play for a few minutes and you fork over more quarters and you kept it going. But Pitfall changed, and the same thing was at home. Again, 15, 20 minutes of gameplay at a time. But Pitfall was one of the first games that had like extended play. There were stages after stages after stages that you would go through, different stages, different. It was like one of the first like adventure games that gave you a different experience from stage to stage. And so that, that kind of, thing was, again, very well received at the time. Pitfall might have been like at the height of the home video game market. But when Atari released Pac-Man and E.T., both were major flops, it caused a domino effect where people said, enough. This is garbage. It's nothing, doesn't look anything like the arcade game, doesn't sound like the arcade game. There's nothing, nothing in common with the arcade experience. And so why am I going to fork over at the time? You might have spent $140 for an Atari 2600 back then. And again, games were $30, $40 at that time. Why am I going to spend that kind of money for those kind of games? And yes, we had those kind of gaming consoles too. Those LED displays, liquid crystal displays, but I go back even before those. Because like I said, look up Mattel NFL football handheld game. Look at that one. Because that was high tech at the time when you had liquid crystal displays. But if you look up Mattel NFL football, it was literally red dots on a screen that you would control left, right, up, down, etc. So that's what I got from the crash of 1983. Poor quality, too many players. Now,
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Please correct me. Please apologize for me being poking the bear a little bit here. But were you around for the crash? Because I know you're a little older than me.
Yeah, I was 14 years old.
So you remember it pretty well.
Yeah, like I said, I lived through it. It was the death until one of the survivors, because all these guys got knocked out. Odyssey got knocked out. Intellivision got knocked out. ColecoVision, all these guys got knocked out. One of the only companies that was still left standing was Nintendo. They had a Faircom system in 1984, 1985, which they redesigned for the North American market, and that became the Nintendo NES. So they're the ones that came out, but again, they came out with against Super Mario Bros. I mean, they took their time and they put more emphasis on gameplay and quality of games ahead of just getting a bunch of games to market. So again, that they came up with a different business model. Now initially they sold you a bunch of stuff that you didn't need. Like they remember that whole system they had that robot thing that would kind of turn, like it didn't really give you a bunch of value. They did give you the gun, like for Duck Hunt. You had the gun that you would shoot for Duck Hunt and whatnot. But they had like this robot thing. It was like this big package that they gave you. But again, the quality of the games, it was such a leap in quality that it revived the original NES on the left. That revived the video game industry. So you talk about Christmas 1985 is when everything came around. But again, Atari, $500 million in losses. I mean, think about that. I mean, that's just that guy really didn't give a lot of pop, at least in terms of improving the gameplay per se, but definitely was but that was definitely the scenario back then. But contrast that to today, you only have, like I said earlier, like you guys confirmed earlier, you really have basically 3 consoles: Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox. It's not a crowded field, and then of course you have computer games, of course.
So let me hang on 1 second.
1988, 1989. What about that period?
Hang on 1 second, David, before that answer that question. So, Paul, so you understand, the 2 major players right now is Xbox and PlayStation. Nintendo's more for kids still. The thing they have going for Nintendo is called the Switch, obviously. It's the reason they call it a Switch is 2 reasons. One, you can switch it from handheld to TV. That's why it's so popular. You can, go whatever with that. So, by that said, would you count Nintendo as a major player? No, I wouldn't count it as a major player because they're not major like blockbuster games like Devil May Cry, God of War, Call of Duty, and so on. Does that make sense to you, Paul?
hmm
Yeah, it does. But well, let me ask you. Well, let me ask you this, because one of the things going back to the 80s, all of those gaming platforms had
hmm
a version or at least a knockoff of another game from another system. It was a bit of the Wild Wild West back then.
Thank you.
So you had, at one time you had like 8 to 10 consoles, and they all had a version of some Pitfall game, like for example.
Or some Street Fighter game.
But that was later. Street Fighter was obviously later. Like I said, I'm still
What about the 1988, 89? I mean, that was the era with the top
that
of the
one. I'm
CD.
not as familiar with. I basically moved over into computer games at that point, so I got my first Apple Mac,
Mm-hmm.
and so games like Dark Castle and the sports games. When I mean the graphics then, even though it was in black and white and it had like a 9-inch screen, again revolutionary in terms of the graphics and the potential on those. And so certainly, yeah, probably, yeah, you're right. Um, a lot of old people. Shout out to the Gen X and the Boomers, man. That's right. We keeping Nintendo alive. So
I have my 64 right here, ready to go.
there you go, there you go. But
Lost in translation, Cody, you're
yeah.
wrong for that.
But again, just going back to your question about the late 80s, by the late 80s, I was mostly into computer games. So I had my first Mac, and then by 1990, 91, I bought my first Mac. It was an Mac LC3, color graphics, color, that changed everything. So again, all kind of computer titles that I got. It had the MIDI card in there, so you had realistic sound effects. You had very smooth gameplay at the time. So I became pretty much in that space. More so than following what was going on with Nintendo NES, and then I forget what came out. I think Sega Genesis was certainly big. I mean, certainly in the late 80s and 90s, Sega Genesis. But then you had, I think, Graphics 16. What was it?
And that's around 1988,
Yeah,
89.
yes.
The first one, if I remember correct, I look it up. They call it the what's the name for it? The PC Engine CD-ROM 2. Was under what company? NEC, I
Hmm.
believe.
Hmm.
That December 4,
Hmm.
1998. 'Cause I recall seeing the Panasonic 3DO that hit the market heavy
Right.
with the first gaming console that have the CD. Then Sega came with their own with Sega CD. Atari had some with Jaguar, so to be. Then PlayStation came with it's like it almost expanded again.
Hmm. Yeah,
But if you
yeah,
think
you're
about
right. I think the crowd, and like I said, the rise in computer games. So again, by the early to mid '90s, again, Wolfenstein 3D. I said this last week. Wolfenstein changed gameplay overall because it was one of the first one single player action games, 360-degree smooth graphics. That was a computer game. The original
kind of true.
Wolfenstein was like, again, like any other computer game at the time. It was like basically one dimensional and whatnot, and little dots and things moving on the screen. Wolfenstein changed gameplay because that's where you got your Doom. And again, without that, you wouldn't have your
Call of Duty
Call of Duty, and you wouldn't have your, what's the space game
and
that?
Navy, no, before Call of Duty was Navy SEAL SOCOM. That was the first
Okay,
game
but I'm
that
just
came
saying,
up
but
with the
without
Apple.
Wolfenstein 3D, you wouldn't have all those other
Correct.
titles
I'll
because
give
the
you that
game
proper. That's
engine that
correct.
they
I
developed
give
for
that.
Wolfenstein 3D was basically going to be the model for all the stuff that came after that. So again, computer games were also very competitive, certainly in that time. Now again, I don't know even today. I don't know what the status of computer gaming is. So I know you guys have pretty powerful
So let
uh,
me
gaming and platforms and
Ooh,
whatnot on your PC. So I don't know
let
what the
me
what the deal
update you
is
on
now.
that actually. So computer games, I would say early 2000s was the bomb, meaning they were blowing up right and left. Then it died out for a long time, around the PS3 era, I want to say, and 360, because the
mhm,
consoles are very strong. Even my PS5 right now is as strong as my computer, pretty much. If you have the good monitor or a good TV, you're set.
mhm,
Now they have a comeback lately. Like I have a ex coworker of mine, one of my old chefs. He used to say, and like he built his PC. He's a gamer. He does iRacing. He loves racing, and he goes, "This is why I hate fucking consoles. They're trying to rip you off." Blah 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 blah. We can have that discussion all day long, me and him. In a way, he's right in a lot of things. They're always trying to nickel and dime us right and left. Like what's common is like gambling for kids now these days with the skins and this and that. Now, computer gamings are on a high right now. That's why you saw these gaming models coming out, this new PC, graphic cards, and all this stuff because PC games are very hot right now.
It's, but it's not just graphic cards alone that was the issue. It's more on the graphic card, high resolution gaming monitor coming from Asus number one, Gigabyte number two, MSI number three were the top three, and the other companies that joined into the fray of it when it comes to PC gaming. The issue of it is based on resolution and the RAM capacity on these video cards. Because unlike before, even J2 Cent, shout out to J2 Cent if he ever sees it, he mentioned back then the cost of video card was never so expensive before. The price of a video card back then was never more than a TPU. It has never been that way for a long time until recently during the pandemic. The pandemic made the price of video card to jump to a level they're not supposed to be. It was unrealistic because due to the Bitcoin money era. But so I'm not going to that part. But the thing about the PT gaming arena, it got very very competitive because for one, you having big names making all type of motherboards for all type of gaming purpose. I mentioned Asus, it's number one on the list. Gigabyte is number two. MSI is number three. At one point, Intel was in the mix of it, but it wasn't doing too well. So they motherfucker don't do too well. There was another one called Biostar, and I make maybe more solid more motherboards, but it can get there. There was other competition as well. When it comes to video card, there are two main makers. You got Nvidia and AMD, but they have third party who make their own flair or their own flavor of that, and that's going on and going so forth. So when you going by that, when you go by processing speed, then you go by hard drive. The hard drive competition is never going to die out. It keep on increasing, keep on improving, but it become very costly. But what I don't want to skip was the time when they came in the game console, when they started doing the CD back in 1988, 1989. It blew up there. It affected the PC era during that time too as well because when you have games not playing on CD, 16-bit above, what thing was going on? Yeah, better graphic, better look, but the PC was still lagging behind during
Actually,
that
David,
time.
I just looked it up. The first CD console was 1988. TurboGrafx CD was
That's
called.
The
that's what
Turbo
I was
4,
mentioning earlier. Yeah, they were competing head to
yeah,
head kind of with Sega. Genesis had more titles. The thing with Kill Turbo Graphics is they didn't have a ton of titles out the gate. Sega Genesis had a pretty robust catalog of titles at that particular time, so they were definitely up there.
bingo. So
So,
that was the issue because I remember I went to one store and they showed the Panasonic 3DO. I thought that would be the king because they had a good couple of lineup, let's say about 8 or 10 games. But PlayStation was playing the long game. They wasn't rushing. That when they came later with the PlayStation 1. Sega Genesis jumped on the bandwagon with their own. Then what did it take? What did it take? What other game consoles that came out? What did it take? There was one game. Was it Dreamcast?
it was
The
Sega
Dreamcast.
Dreamcast, I thought was
Saturn.
like 92, 93. I
Yeah,
thought.
Sega CD came out
Okay.
next, I believe.
Mm.
hmm And okay, take a CD. They take a Dreamcast. Well, take a Dreamcast. I remember that. They thought everybody would have conquered the gaming console until they saw what PlayStation 2 did. And there was a trick about PlayStation 2 that everybody was talking about when you can play a racing game, you can pause the game, take out the game disc, and put your own favorite music in there and play it. And we'll do all other extra feature came along where everybody in a long line would come into the store, GameStop. If you remember that time, people were bringing their Sega Dreamcast to replace for PlayStation 2. And I was like, it was all over the news. I was like, oh, that is the worst way to lose money. If your console is that beat up in the market, whereby people are turning in their game console to replace it for another game console, that is epic. Am I wrong?
Yeah,
Because I saw it in real time, and I was scratching my head like, this cannot be everywhere, is it? Until I turned on the TV, I saw it on the news. line of people coming in during the Dreamcast to get the plate. I was like, whoa, how you lose that battle?
So I just looked it up. In 1992, Sega Master CD came out. It was a
Hmm.
like attachment. You just put it under your
Hmm.
system.
Yep.
It
Yep.
was a
I remember that.
system. If you guys
Yeah,
remember that, I actually remember.
Mhm.
I didn't ever own it. I remember that damn thing. Then
I never owned it either.
yeah, then a few years
I got
later,
cousins
they
who did.
came out with the say I can't. Where's the name for this damn fucking thing?
Sega CD or Sega Saturn? Which one came
Saturn then
first?
CD.
Okay.
Then they added another attachment on top, the ROM. If you remember that one. Then after
Hmm.
that, they came with the Saturn, and then the
Hmm.
Dreamcast after that. And then the company
Hmm.
crashed pretty much after that.
That time the company came with the Sega Saturn or Dreamcast is when PlayStation 2 came out and hurt them.
I think the Dreamcast didn't work. One, they didn't have no decent titles. Number one, they had one or two launch.
So
They
let me ask
had
you guys:
Right.
are games usually ported, even with the limited feel now? Are games ported across systems the way they used to be?
crossplay. You mean?
Certain
Yeah, I mean, like
games.
a title's released for Xbox and
Some games, yes. So here's the
PlayStation.
catch on that now.
There's some
Like I
games.
would
So
think, like
we
the end of like Madden, like
yeah,
NFL
Madden
Madden
is
game.
one
I
a good
think is
example.
probably
Yeah.
everywhere.
Devil May Cry is another one that was on both systems. There are not too many of them, but the
What
catch
about
is the
GTA?
Call of Duty.
Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, like Call of Duty, for example.
Yeah.
Call of Duty was cross all platforms, but it wasn't cross play. Meaning, if you had I had a PlayStation, you have an Xbox, but I couldn't play with you for the longest time.
Mm.
A lot of people saying
There you go.
PlayStation was greedy because every company has to charge for their online service because they have to put money.
Hmm.
And now they're arguing who's going to pay for what and all this stuff. And PlayStation was not playing ball. In a way, I agree and disagree at the same time because I agree they are putting a lot of money. They want some money back in their investment. I get that part. I don't agree because it hurts the gamer, the consumer, like myself and David, and so on. So it's one of those things like, damn if you do, damn if you don't. So eventually, they came out to a deal with Microsoft and Activision, who owned it back then, PlayStation, Call of Duty, and they came a deal. There are a lot of games now on crossplay. PlayStation did start, excuse me, Call of Duty started the crossplay. We all know that. Like Fortnite's another one, and some other ones I can't remember. NFL and so on. It doesn't matter what system you have. Now you can play with your friends across the world on two different systems, even three sometimes. Some of the games are on Nintendo.
Mm.
Nintendo really doesn't play well with anybody else. They like keep it to themselves. They
Yeah, I
like
know
if
for the
I
Wii, like they didn't come out. Wii was out there. Wii might have the longest um, shelf life of any gaming console ever. It was like 10 years or whatever that before it, but Nintendo even released anything else.
The reason it was because the Wii U actually was the stepping stone for the Switch. And they used it for it was a flop. That was a complete flop because they added a tablet. You could walk away, but if you walk too far away, it crashed the whole game. It lost connection. So they used it as a stepping stone because they didn't force the CEO to step down. That's how bad the game system was. That was the lowest Nintendo ever sold any system. And let's be honest, Nintendo is the kings of systems. They've been around before we were sperm. That's how good they were.
Mm.
And now we have Nintendo, and it was one of those things like I had a Wii for Switch a little bit, but the games that come out for it, they don't attract me anymore.
And I remember the commercial they did against Nintendo back then. They said, "This is Super Mario running in an ice cream truck, and this is Sega on a drag racer, and they chose Sonic." And I remember, I'm sure you remember that commercial. It was always on the TV. They're comparing Nintendo with
Mm-hmm.
Sega. Nintendo is like an ice cream truck with represent
Mm.
Mario Brothers.
I remember that.
Then Sega represent the drag racer, which is Sonic, and so they super active graphics. So that was beating Nintendo for a while. They're like, you can play Nintendo, or you can play Sega, super fast graphics. And as time progressed, there's always commercial that targeted one other game console or another. That's always been the case. But for some reason, PlayStation almost stays consistent with it. from the PlayStation 2 would allow you to install an external hard drive, or you can convert the port whereby you allow you to play aging game. Because here what people didn't notice is PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 have a much bigger library outside the United States, more so in Europe and in Japan. And that library is ridiculous. Xbox would only have a library within North America. They didn't never have game development in Japan or you were making games. So when people heard about it, it's since PlayStation 2 era, people were buying games from Japan and pay for a particular converter to put on their PlayStation 2 to play Japanese game or play European game, which the line we would never find in American library. That also went over to PS3, the same shenanigan too. So when people talk about the game console war, everybody thought Xbox was winning. They're like, no, 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 Xbox not winning. They may be winning in North America on a global stage. They're not winning because when people start to know about the games that not made here in the US or were made in either in Japan or North America, people are like, I'm going over there to buy my game. I'll bring it
I'll
here.
give you
I'll
a great
port my
example, David.
system.
During the PlayStation 1 era, I can't remember which Dragon Ball Z game was, but I was
Ooh,
huge Dragon Ball Z fan back then. Like every kid was. Dragon Ball Z was the hottest it was ever was in the early 90s, early or late 2000s. Anyway, so I was able to get my hands on a Japanese version of a Dragon Ball game. But I had to get a conversion kit, meaning I had to get a chip, a little spring actually to when it started had to, the top had to be open and then closed. They had to go through a process to read the disc because Japan has a different data system versus us, so you have to get a
hmm
conversion kit. You just plug it behind your PS4, PlayStation 1, nothing crazy. So I beat it. I got bored of it, so I sold it to Funkoland. I made $350 that day. Think about it. In the early 2000s, almost $400, $350. Yeah, the importing games from Japan was a huge market at the time.
Highlight Cody. Yeah, yeah. Japan doesn't release a lot of game here for some reason. They would have made money, but here's the problem. If they were to release those game over here, the game maker in the US would be feeling some kind of way because you know why? Japanese always a step or I hate to say this, 10 step ahead of them always when it comes to making games. There have been tons of games being made for Dragon Ball Z. There have been tons of games made for Bleach. Every major anime that you are watching today time, they already had a lineup of games built already over there before it came over here. The problem is the licensing. Just like you have with Netflix right now, what Netflix is doing. There'll be another conversation for another time. But when these game developers are not able to have the license agreement from these developers, or how you want to say, the Japanese are not stupid to let these people buy their license or rent it, because they know what they're going to do to the game. Kind of like a block to that.
Here's the other thing I think. Also,
Uh,
here's the other thing I think.
I
Yeah,
believe that too.
hang on.
I believe
Yeah,
that too.
also, our culture in the United States is a little different than Japan's, so that is a factor we have to put in there too. Also, our rating system is completely different in Japan. Listen, you have people dying, bloody murder on anime stuff. And guys, stay tuned. David Stoner's anime show pretty soon. Just a little throw a little out there. Anyway, back to the topic. The anime, excuse me, anime, the gaming system is completely different. You have like arcades who people play video games from time you wake up to time you go, and they gamble. It's a different culture over there. So that is the biggest thing we have to keep in mind. Why a lot of games were imported, like Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball Z wasn't imported to PlayStation 2 era. A whole generation. That's a big thing. They did try to port it at first, but it wasn't a big hit because Dragon Ball wasn't out yet. But when it was out, oh my god, now we don't want to port it because it was bombed. Then they tried it one more time. Oh, we left a lot of money on the table on PS1. I wonder why, dumb fucks. And that is the issue with game designers. Like, let me ask both of you guys a question. Do you first of all, I'm gonna ask you a question. What is the game you started using to buy your games when you were kids?
I'm sorry. What's that again? What games?
What
What?
game you store used to go like Funkoland, KB Toys? Which one do you remember?
Usually it was like Toys R Us
Okay, that's one of them.
in this
What
hmm
area.
about you,
Yeah.
David?
Same thing.
So
Toys R
I
Us.
did Toys R Us. I also did KB Toys, if you guys remember that,
Yep, I
and
remember that. Yeah.
Funkoland. Do you remember the excitement when you had the game in your hands and you were so excited when you opened the smell of it, the feel of it?
Sure.
You want to? Here's my next topic I was going to now. Is that I also feel the game is coming because everything's digital now. You don't have the feeling in your hands. You don't get the smell. You don't trade your games and you beat it. No.
But I think that's across the board, though. I mean,
Oh, it is.
like you used to look like Black Friday or even Thursday night used to be people would be at the store outside, 30 degrees or less, waiting for the store to open, and everybody bum rushes the store to get either the latest game or the whatever the greatest, the hottest item of the
Hmm.
year is. A lot of that stuff's died off with digital, with Cyber Mondays and stuff. No one's waiting, let alone Thursday night. It got so bad where it was like Thanksgiving night, 8 p.m. stores were opening up, and people. In fact, I think a couple people got deleted because of a bum rush crowd. I think it happened in New York or something like that. David may be more familiar with that, but I think people got said, enough is enough with the waiting for stuff. I mean, same thing when sneakers come out. I mean, had the lines be around the block for the latest Jordan sneaker or something like that. I think, with all the digital options now, I think people are just getting tired of, this is silly for me waiting around a block, hoping that they still have a quantity by the time I get there and before they tell me that they're sold out of the product or whatever. So I just don't think people have the patience for that kind of stuff anymore. So I think that's kind of across the board.
It was a big problem back in the day. Like people were like fighting people. I remember getting my PS3. I got a midnight release, and the girl was dating. I thought, get my car keys, bring the car around because I am not fucking around. I want to jump in the car and run and get the fuck out of there. I don't know, but as soon as they're fucking shotgun or what. Where I lived, we never had issues. We never had people bum rushing. It was like a big crowd. It was like very metal. Everybody was friendly. We were cool. Nobody camped. The game somebody used to go in and go early. You know, if you paid it off or you come in at midnight, yeah, here's your number. They code you by group numbers, so you didn't have to wait for hours and hours on end. And that's the like thing I liked about it. But the midnight release, it's not even a thing anymore. I have never heard of midnight release anytime soon. Have you?
No, but like I said, I think that's industry wide. I think people are finally getting fed up with, again, the long waits and the disappointment at the end. I think people value their time a lot more than they did certainly even 10 years ago. So, in many ways, that's a good thing. Plus, they're saying, it almost got too commercial with the Christmas and the Black Fridays and all that kind of stuff that I think people made decisions that, stores need to be closed. I remember not too long ago where, again, we would go out after Thanksgiving dinner and the big mall, Cherry Hill Mall, and a lot of these places would be open, and we would go out and just I just like sort of like the buzz of it. But now most of the mall, you don't see malls open on Black Friday or on Thursday night anymore. And again, no one's rushing in. I'm not saying that the malls aren't full, but it's like, look, I'm gonna take my sweet time in getting there. But again, there's very few, like, again, hot items that everybody, all these kids want or anything. This isn't the Cabbage Patch era or anything where people are like, yeah, iPhone, again, same thing. So I think people are just getting wiser and seeing more options that are available to get merch, especially with Amazon and a lot of online retailers. And I think that's certainly, but I think that's kind of, to me, it's almost a positive. I think it's a good thing overall.
Hmm. Yeah, Mike.
You muted.
I do
Yeah,
think
you
it's a
did.
good thing and a bad thing because I do miss having the physical copy in my hands. I know you should can do it now, but it's not worth anything. I remember trading games and it's like worth pennies.
Mhm.
Here's the
Go
thing.
ahead, David.
You mentioned having a physical. It was mostly the Nintendo cartridge game that ended up being more viable than any other game out there. Because remember, you just have so many different editions. You have the regular edition, you have the gold edition, and the gold edition is more like the one you could come and collect the item. And that was the thing about it because as these gaming consoles constantly change, it's losing its flair along the way. It's losing the kind of worth it have along the way because let's be honest. We have real game collectors that one in Australia who collect almost every game console that ever came out, and he turned it home to a museum. That is one place. If I ever got a chance to take a vacation, go there and see it myself. Every single game console, based on what year, what era it came out, he has it. Because you didn't have a game store back then. And GameStop was the later place everybody was going to buy their game console afterwards. After Toys R Us. That was the thing. But after you're looking at the game console era right now that's constantly changing, try to ask yourself the question, what's the point of it? People want to keep their PlayStation 2 because of iconic games they have. They can play on the PS2, but you cannot play on the PS3. Same thing happened with the PS3. There's some iconic game that you want to play on the PS3. But PlayStation say, no, it will discontinue the network with it. So you move to PS4. The same shenanigan again on PS4. Everybody will buy the
They're
PS5.
getting better with that. Actually, the last console use is backwards capability. But before we
It
move on, I
port,
want to
it
answer
port,
this
it port,
question.
it ported the game. It put the game in the store so you can actually purchase it.
If you
That's
buy
what it did.
digital, you don't have to worry about that either. That's another thing too. But let's answer this one question. It came in from I apologize if I butchered the name. Cody's King. Am I saying that right, guys?
Cody is king. Yeah.
Cody's King. I
Cody
apologize if
is
I
king.
butchered that. No. So he's asking when the last time you were interested in the game. I don't know when because it was been so long. I think the last time I was excited for a game, it was Devil May Cry 5, for this generation,
Hmm.
and it was probably PS4. Yeah, PS4. I was very excited for Black Flag coming out. I was a little disappointed personally. It was my favorite game, but I was very. I like gaming. It was something I relax, and I mentioned this on this show. I mentioned on my Spar Arena. I mentioned on our Gray Area poll. I do enjoy gaming very much. Something
Well, let me
relax.
ask you this: when was the last time you've seen a video game advertised,
Hmm.
like on TV,
I don't
like
have cable. I wouldn't
Madden?
know.
Like you don't even see video games like Madden NFL.
No.
You don't
It
even
left,
see it advertised
no.
during the NFL games.
Here's the problem. It left the regular channel and moved toward to cable or certain channel it will promote it from because nowadays, if you want to see any advertisement about any latest game, either you're
But I'm
watching
saying I don't see any
either
video
you
game
either
advertising
either
at
you're
any
watching
on any platform.
either you're watching wrestling on TNT, TBS, or US Network, or advertised there. If it's wrestling game, so to speak. Assassin's Creed game, very rare you catch it on any cable. You have to be like constantly looking, paying attention.
Yeah. So hang on one second before we move on. I want to mention one thing to King over here. So never said it was a good game. I think it's a great game. It wasn't my cup of tea. That's all I'm saying. It was my favorite. Assassin's Creed was 3. I know people don't like it. Uh, am I boring you, the princess?
No,
All right.
I'm not
so,
stretching. I'm not
so
stretching.
I love Assassin's Creed games. I think they're awesome. It was my cup of tea with Black Flag. Go ahead,
I would
David.
I was excited for God of War 3. God of War 4, I was a
Ooh.
little I was very critical about it. I was like, what's the storyline about this one? Where's
I
the direction
agree.
take?
I agree 100% because God of War 3 was a very good build game back when they give a fuck about the games. Now, when God of War reboot or continue, whatever you want
God
to
of War
call it,
4. Call it 4.
okay, let's go God of War for argument's sakes here. I was very critical also because I don't know. I liked it actually. I was very shocked. Hey man, and join us if you like, bud.
Hey man,
The
Joe,
link is in the chat, top of the chat. Um, but I was very cautious about it because I didn't know how to go. Like, how can you continue the story? But I was surprised. It wasn't different. And yes, I did like Valhalla. I think it was an awesome continue. It wasn't like game one was good, game two sucked, game three is awesome. No, game one was awesome. Game two, they blew my fucking mind out. They did even better.
the
Like
game
it was like
3
a
got
wet dream I never expected to have.
okay. Man, Joe, come up in here quickly. I need your help in this.
Can I ask you
Right,
guys?
stacking this
Can
one.
I ask you guys two questions?
One second before you
Sure
want
thing.
to push back on this comment right here. I think all God of Wars were great except the second one. I was a little disappointed on that one. Yeah, I think 3 was the best one. My personal opinion. Fuck you, David. I see that look.
From Kratos.
Okay, Paul, go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off.
All right, so two questions I have.
No, I'm not shaving my head.
For the games that you play, how on average, how long you playing a video game?
Do I beat it? It depends.
Now,
Like
in
Valhalla.
one set, you put it in, you put the
I'm gonna give you
cartridge
an
in, or
example.
you download or whatever.
It depends on the game. Like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, that was a 120-hour game, and that's taking a couple shortcuts. I think it was average 200 hours. I think they said to master it. I mean, to please everything. It really depends. Like some games, like God of War, it's a story mode game. So I think that was like a 48-hour game. So it really depends on the game. It's really hard to answer that.
Okay, but you're not talking minutes. Does any games that you guys play that could be measured in minutes?
No, I would say any game. If I'm playing Ratchet and Clank, I'll play that game for like at least an hour. God of War game is not a game that you rush through because there was so
Agree.
many hidden clues. So if I'm playing that game, at least 2 or 3 hours.
Hmm.
Hopefully there's no distraction. Now that's another game. Dragon Age game on another game that's almost rival to God of War. That's another game that take time. Um, Devil May Cry is just the same way too. Now Legacy mentions Legacy of Kain. Legacy of Kain was another game back in the PlayStation 2 era that you had to take your time to play it. It's like a strategy game. You go to different stages, but you got to pay attention to include. There's no different from the Gotham Knight Batman game. These games
That's
take at
another good
least
game.
these games take at least an hour and a half to play. Meaning
Hmm.
you're zoned into the game. You're not trying to get distracted. If you're not living with your girlfriend, you put your phone on airplane mode on purpose. Now I remember a guy back then when they have Gear of War, Xbox fans, they say the same thing. They put their phone on airplane mode or to turn their phone off. They're not supposed to be distracted. They say no, this is more important than the girlfriend. I was laughing. I was like, you really think you say that? Say, I told my girl, if I'm playing
So,
God of War, don't call me.
David, pause 1 second. So I just looked up Batman Arkham Asylum, right?
Hmm.
So it says here 11 hours to beat the main storyline, about 13 to beat the campaign, and 57 hours to get it 100% complete from beginning to start.
Hmm.
7 hours.
Shit.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah,
never got that
the
far.
reason I'm asking the question is I
Go
know
ahead.
for me, I'm still old school in this sense. I believe as an old school gamer,
Hmm.
you should be able to get a certain level of satisfaction in any game that you play
I agree.
for about 15 or 20 minutes. The games I play now are mostly on my phone. I don't even play computer games anymore. I barely even bring up my main console anymore. But 15 or 20 minutes, like let's say if I'm at work, I got a break in the actual, I got to step away from something and kind of number crunch it for a while. Let me take 15, 20 minutes. Let me just knock a couple stages out of a game of some kind, shoot 'em up game or something like that, and then I get on with things. And I may do that kind of 2 or 3 times a day, but again, I do it in stages. It's not like it's something where I got to go through a stage or find or spend hours looking for uh, um, artifacts and weapons upgrades and hidden treasures and things of that nature. I mean, I certainly think that certainly at least at my age now, if I can get a certain level of satisfaction, that's why again a lot of games I play, like board or card games, like I can do an online spades game up to like say maybe a couple hundred points. That game may take maybe 20 minutes. Or I may play an arcade shoot 'em up game and play 15 minutes of that or whatever, and then move on to something else with a certain level of satisfaction. But it seems like now with a lot of these games, it requires or demands hours of your time in order to get any sense of accomplishment or enjoyment out of the game. And that's certainly something that, is probably one of the reasons why I never bought into a lot of these ladder gaming consoles or invested in a high end computer to play some of these games because again, time just never permitted me the luxury of doing that. But for
Okay.
me, that's the era I grew up in. Gaming, even the original developers of these games, they weren't expecting people They weren't expecting people to be spending hours on these video games. But again, some people, Minesweeper. Again, I can play a few rounds of that or whatever, 15, 20 minutes, and be like, either until I solve it, or if I keep
I'll give you a good
bombing,
example, Paul.
then I go to something else.
I have it
Now,
on my phone to kill some time. I play 8 ball. So that's I play with random people, have a little fun. Nothing too serious.
Yeah, yeah.
now,
And I get where you're coming from. What is in that last game that we played on a console? You can plug it in for a few minutes and you just kill some time. Oh, I gotta go now. I gotta put it down. To
Yeah,
me, I'll
it's like
probably say it was Call of Duty.
it's a full commitment, you know. But then we talk about, for a lot of young guys, especially young men, what are you doing with the rest of your life, or your social skills, or dating, or building relationships and things of that nature. If you're spending hours of your time on gameplay, and then we talk about how a guy won't even go up to a girl and say hi. I think there's something where and maybe that someone changed the model. Like I said, I talked about Pitfall earlier, that you could spend hours playing, but I think there's something even in the gaming itself that's keeping guys, mostly guys. I'm not saying that girls don't play also. I mean, women don't play also. I
now,
know they do,
if you
but
put
I
what
think
type
there's
of
something
game,
to to this whole thing, that if there is going to be a crash, I mean, going back to the original theme of the show, if there is a crash, I almost think that'd be a good thing, to an extent, that if it breaks some of these people out of this box or prison, that they're just overly consumed. Because again, everything can be good, but too much of anything could be bad for you.
I'm gonna
and
give you a
and
couple of
so I'm
examples
just
here.
hoping, seeing that, if there is some sort of crash or something, that people start to kind of reassess where they could be putting their time into things that are more edifying, I guess, overall. But when I hear young, even guys in their late 20s and 30s spending hours of time on a gaming console, I'm not sure that was intended, but it certainly seems to be a reality for a lot of guys.
So I want to bring something to attention. So people are saying about women gamers, or whatever you want to call it. Say that some of those gamers are pretty attractive women. Like, for example, here I put this picture up. I want to show you an example. Her name is Sniper Wolf. She's a really good gamer. Like, she's not a bad attractive, a bad woman. My point I was trying to get to is these women gamers, or whatever you want to call it. They're out there. You got to put yourself out there too. But it's one of those hard things. Like, do I talk to her again? Like people are so scared to get turned down and rejected or be treated like shit, and that is the problem we also have, and that's why
now
this is behind the
let me
system. Go
let me
ahead.
put back. Let me put back. Since a lot of game system and gaming can't allow communication within game, people have been finding their. I hate to say it, but it's weird. Some have found their spouse through the game they play. Perfect example. I was looking at some of the dungeon games. These are the games that people play hours upon hours, and these games are hard to end. The Final Fantasy series games, they'll take upon hour to end. Destiny 2 is another one. The Elder Scroll Online, you know this very well, Peter. Now, the most infamous one that you know damn well, Diablo. This used to be a PC game before they have it for the game console. How long you think somebody beat the Diablo game? Hmm?
Too many hours.
Okay, then when you have to customize your weapon to get yourself prepared to beat a
I give
particular
you
boss.
a better one that people were beyond addicted. I think they have
World of
rehab for
Warcraft,
it.
World of
Mm,
Warcraft,
Warcraft. I was gonna go with it.
and there's another one, EverQuest.
I don't remember hearing Evercraft. To
EverQuest
be
was
honest.
on the news. EverQuest was on the news on ABC News how one person was playing EverQuest so much to the point that he neglected his wife and his kid, and they had a camera on him how many
Mm,
hours he spent playing EverQuest online. And the thing was so bad that he was in his chair playing games from morning to night. His wife and kid would come in, the door didn't come out, and he would still be there. Every time he get there, he's going to eat, take a shower, take a piss, or change his clothes.
mm,
That's how crazy it was. Because when I look at these games and I look at the list, I was like, damn, there's Diablo 3, there's Diablo 4, there's Diablo 1 and 2 with iconic
mm.
because it takes hours to beat. Dungeon and
Yeah.
Dragon, that's another game. Torchlight. I don't think it's that good at dungeons.
Hmm.
We had what else again? Border Gate, Dark Alliance. That's another long game. We had Elder Scroll Online. We had what else? Neverwinter. We had Dungeon Siege 3, Dynasty 2.
Yeah, well, like I
Um
said, you had the Grand Theft Auto. You had
oh
what's that? Dead Man's Redemption. I think that was also a pretty popular. I know Eric used to play that one
Red Dead.
quite
Red Dead.
often.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Okay.
mean, again, it's a lot of these games that just require just hours of your time to play. And my thing is, like I said, that's why I always limited my time. The only other question I had, and this might be a technical question for you, David, is relatively speaking, because like I said, the last computer games that I got into, again, to your earlier point, people used to build systems. You
I
got the
still
video
do.
with the NVIDIA cards and
I
all that to
still
play
do.
these games.
That's the only way I get
Mhm.
a computer is I build it.
Relatively, what is today, for example, if you want to mimic that of a PS, what's it, 6 now? Like some PS5,
PS5.
PS5.
PS6, or
PS5.
Xbox 360 or whatever the. So how amped up? Do you need like an AMD 10, 12? Do you need
Ooh,
an Intel
It's a combination. But
i7, i8 or more to get
no,
what would
it's
you
a
have to build
combination.
in order to model what these systems are
Now,
doing?
if you want on Intel side of things, you either get an i7 or i9. i9 is more of a beat of a processor, but it give off too much heat. So you
Yeah.
cannot use a CPU fan. You either use an all-in-one cooler, which is
Hmm.
AIO, or you get a custom water loop. That
Right.
is a given. Video card, you cannot do a either you do the 33 or the 42. You cannot do a 3070 or you need a 3080 or 3090. Or you go straight to the 40 series, which is the 4080 or 49. That's the overkill. And Cody is right. That's the minimum you have to spend. The last message. The last message.
Yeah. My
That
PC, this right here, what you guys looking at right here, oh, flashes light. It cost me five K, and I have i90 Pro. Yeah,
yeah.
i90 Pro, the newest one.
Hmm.
And here's the thing.
Yeah, I didn't spend that much. Like I'm talking about, like if you include my system, the tower, and all the accessories and the rickety rackety, all the bells and whistles and everything like that, Mr. Bennett, I spent 3 grand. But I knew I was overspending. I knew that. Like I got retarded when I built this system. Everything was over the top. Everything was
Hmm.
top of the line. The whole
Hmm.
9 yards. So I
Right.
knew I was gonna overspend, and
And
I
for what you, but
purposefully over.
for what you guys built, either $3,000 or $5,000,
Jesus,
is the
5 grand.
gameplay that much more superior to that
Yeah,
of just buying a
yeah,
five
yeah,
hundred
yeah,
dollar, six
yeah,
hundred
yeah.
dollar
It's like this.
PlayStation or Xbox?
Well, the thing is, the performance is better. The games run smoother on PC, much more smoother. You get much better frame rates, unless there's an error in programming on the development side. Like there's been a couple of games like that, but you're not going to run into problems on PC that you don't have far worse on a console. Like you take Cyberpunk 2077 for example, dude. When those problems happen and people on PC were having problems with it, like I bought the game, but like a year later. I waited a whole year after because I saw the issues, and I was like, well, I know PS5 and Xbox are having problems. Then I looked at the reviews on PS5 and Xbox. Yes, they were far worse, far worse.
Cyberpunk was a
But
fucking hot mess, bro. Let's be fucking straight here.
But the
yeah,
Those
thing
yeah,
is,
guys
when it
were
first
on
released,
crack.
when it first
Mentor is
released,
correct.
but here's the thing: a year later, when you look at all the updates and stuff that they released for it, the updates and patches and stuff, Mr. Bennett, is everyone who played it would tell you it's a much, much, much different
And the
game
patches on the
today
PC
than it
side.
is than it was when it first released. And I was like, yeah,
But,
that's why I waited. That's why I waited.
but,
And to
but
this day, I
Mentor,
still haven't played it yet. It's on my computer. It's on Steam. I bought it, but I haven't installed it yet.
but Mentor, let's be honest.
You don't want
Those
to install it, trust
patches,
me.
but Mentor, those patches are going on two sides. Patches going on the gaming side and game on the driver side of the video card, wherever you are using it, because they had to tweak a certain variable on your video card for it to perform well. Because at one point, it was crashing other people's video card, and they got to go reimbursed for that.
Yeah, that's but like I said, that's crazy. But like I said, the performance is far superior and you can do much more with it. Like if you go to the Nexus, all the mods and stuff you can add to the game. Like you take a game like Skyrim, right? The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Now Bethesda, the developers of that game, will tell you people love our games because that game was just that good. It's like no, it was not that good. The story was actually shit when you look at it. You know what I mean? Without the rose tinted glasses, it was so simplistic. Like it's like, dude, this is such a simple fucking story. But what made that game last for 11 years so far is that it's the mods. Like you can make a completely different game just adding modifications to it because fans of the game have actually sat down and developed, and other developers have developed whole storylines that are far superior to the stuff that the actual development company made. Like how do fans sitting at home do a better job at making a game than you made?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah,
like,
and that's the thing too that gets me is that a lot of these games, even the sports games now, have gotten into this thing about customization. Like you'll spend more time in draft mode
and customizing your
building your team than actually playing the game.
But here's the thing:
I'll give you a better one, guys.
There is a certain appeal to that. That can be fun, especially if you make the interface easy to understand. You have a lot of like cool options that are appealing. It is fun to do that. Take it if I'm looking for one. Like take a game like The Division or The Division 2, for example, right? Customization is super simple. You don't spend a lot of time customizing your character because there's a lot of game where you get your customization at is like modifying your weapons and building your character and playing through the story and stuff like that. Like there's much like customization, like with the weapons and everything like that, far superior to customizing your character. That's why you don't in that game you wouldn't spend a lot of time customizing your character. Same thing with Bethesda games, Starfield, the Elder Scrolls series. You don't spend a lot of time customizing your character. I mean, you might spend
Diablo.
a little time on there. Yeah, Diablo, games like that. Because there's a lot more in the actual gameplay.
I'll give you a better example.
But here's the thing. Paul is right. Like with the sports games, like Madden and all that, you will spend like 3 or 4 hours of total time. Maybe not in one sitting, but of total time just doing that. Building your team and and choosing equipment. It's the same thing with like the UFC games, like customizing your characters and what brand of clothing you want to wear and stuff like that. You're right, man. You're right. You spend a significant amount of time just doing that. But that's a part of the hook,
Right.
And so that's how the bane of video games came in, which is microtransactions. You know what I'm saying?
I'll give you a good example.
Video games, in my opinion.
I'll give you a better example. You had WWE for a while, SmackDown versus Raw. You're drafting people and all this, different wrestlers, and you took hours. Need for Speed, great example. Customizing your vehicle, getting the right stocks, getting the right tires, getting the right trim, a wing, body paint. It fucking took you 8 hours just to get it going.
You're tweaking your gear ratio to make sure you get the right ratio you want to. You get the
Now, Paul, I'll give you a better example. You have like Rising or Roman, for example. You pick a male or female. Now it takes you an hour before you even hit the first button to start the game. Customize your player like you want long hair, short hair, beard, no beard, glasses, big tits, small tits, big ass, small tits, whatever. You name it, you can do everything. You can build your dream woman, bro. I mean, you can dream your David's woman he's looking for.
Well, that's you're getting into another area there because I've seen some of these games advertised also. Build your perfect woman or whatever. It's like you're going like to Total Recall, right? Remember the movie Total Recall? Arnold goes in and picks his woman. I want a sleazy and demure. I mean, that's what
sleazy, demure.
Sleazy, demure.
Yes.
So it's like that's where we are right now. Everybody's going in and picking the body parts on the woman and forming their fantasy woman. In the AI space, man. So it's getting freaky out there right now, man.
Hang on a second, David. One second.
Hold on.
1 second.
I'm promoting guys to get themselves in trouble in the type of area.
Jesus Christ. You had to be your big mouth. But hang on. Weird Science. You guys remember that movie, Weird Science?
Yes, Weird Science, yes.
Hey, we're living weird fucking goddamn science.
Yeah. Yeah, dial up your woman, create her, and then after some time, the AI is going to get to a point where you're going to You're gonna put them 3D goggles on,
Oh, God, Jesus Christ.
and this lady's gonna come out, and she's gonna do everything that you wanted to do
Thank
and
you,
whatnot. So I mean,
Oh,
this is where it's
God.
going.
My
This
thing
is
is, look,
Let's
it's
get
like
back to
this.
topic.
Thank you, Cody King. Yes, as it should be. I agree 100%.
Let's get back on topic. I want to bring. Let me bring a monkey wrench to this conversation really fast. Okay, we already talked. We're going towards the crash. We all can agree on that. What made me think about it is one, every company, Xbox and PlayStation, is trying to buy all development, and two, VR. VR has been pushed down our fucking throats harder than any banana you can put down your mouth.
Pause.
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 No Diddy. Right?
No Diddy.
That's Diddy's only for David. But seriously, they've been pushing down VR so hard. PlayStation definitely. You got to pay $500-$600 for the system. They pay another $500 to get the VR system, and it hasn't not proven. VR 1 was horrible. VR 2 is probably worse than dog shit.
I disagree.
Oculus is the only one that's a little decent. Go ahead,
Well, I mean,
Mandarin.
my thing is this: what made VR? What's gonna make VR a success or a failure? It's the same thing that applies to the consoles. It's your video game library. Now that's why you're saying this about VR. Now the VR itself, to me, it's absolutely fantastic when you're playing the game, like the Star Wars games
Which one?
on PC. And I'm actually holding a lightsaber and I'm deflecting laser beams and shit, and I'm actually cutting down stormtroopers. Yes, because you look up, down, you're actually in the world, and it's fantastic, like a fantastic experience.
The
right?
only pushback I
But-
got with that, it
But hold
depends
on,
on the
my
VR.
thing is, but like, say you take Half-Life Alex, right? Absolutely fantastic. I'm in the world of Half-Life. I'm doing these things myself. But my thing is, where are the rest of the games? And
That's my point.
I guarantee you, when you narrow it down and tighten up your shot group, when you boil it down, I guarantee you, grooming, your overall problem with VR is the same as mine. Where are the fucking games?
That's one. And my second problem is you have PSVR, I think it's called, whatever it's called, then the Oculus. The only two ones I know is good. Everybody that I know who has bought them, they tell me don't even bother getting the PSVR. Just get yourself the Oculus. Is more gameplay on that. There Gundams on there.
Because you can plug it to PC. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
But
That's
here's
the
the
thing.
issue.
But like on consoles, there's like, where are the games for it? Like, people have it, and it's fantastic technology. But where are the
Absolutely.
games?
I have used a Oculus at my buddy CQ's house, and it's awesome. I played Saber Beats, and it's a Star Wars game. Now they have even a Gundam game. You're piloting a Gundam. And like, that interests me alone. But the PS version, the PlayStation version, I have nothing about it. Nothing. Not even one good game. I
No,
heard it came out, and that's it.
remember what I mentioned earlier? It had something to do with the developer because PlayStation have a lot of games that could benefit from the VR. Question is, what are developers thinking about that? Do they feel like it worth getting into? Because you gotta look at the resources. Perfect example, because when you develop a game, you're hiring people to wear that 3DO suit to create that motion you're looking for in the game. Now you're going to extra mile, adding more reason when we want to do the VR game and have whereby people can actually feel themselves in again how you go about it, what accessories you don't need. Because if you understand the strain when it comes to developing a game, is one thing. But every game developer in every game to get into that same arena, yeah, look at the company budget. If they really have the time to do that, are they really making the money from the game they have already? Because if not one of the popular line like Gundam or Batman or Spider-Man, all these games that people spend so much money on DLC, ask yourself, will I be able to do so? They had the VR game for Batman. They had a VR game for Iron Man. That could have been great, but after that, you don't hear no expansion game on that one. What's the problem?
Yeah, and I got a question. What's this? What's this blasphemy I hear about you talking about one of the game? You had a problem with one of the God of War games. What's that? What's that shit?
Oh shit!
Okay, I didn't say I had a problem. I didn't think it was as good as the first one and the third one. That's what I'm saying. I think it was good, but it
See,
could have been better.
you're gonna have Paul thinking those bad games. You can't tell lies like that and let them stand, man. Listen,
Listen,
Paul.
that's my
Listen.
Listen,
quote.
I'm talking.
I-
Listen,
all
I'm
right.
listen. I'm the dinosaur here, Mandrill. Like I said, I haven't played any
Dinosaur, you're a fucking
PC
caveman.
games since like the mid '90s. Again, by the end of the '80s, I was primarily a PC gamer, and that ended probably by the mid to the late '90s. I was out. So, and after that, after the smartphone came out, that's why I mostly play. I never owned. The last gaming console that I owned outright was an Atari 5200. Everything else, I went to my boy's house. He had an NES. Another guy had a Sega Genesis, and, that kind of thing. But again, I'm out. I'm the ancient guy. I go back to the video game before you came on. I was there at the video game crash of 1983, and I gave a pretty long, kind of historical lesson at the beginning of the show about what that was. But everything since the like I said, the late '90s, I'm out. Computer games, console games. I have no idea what's out. I have no idea
Paul,
what's there. So I'm just giving Manjo context here. So again, most of this high end conversation you guys are in, I'm not aware of. But the only thing I mentioned about the '83 crash was what I am hearing that is similar past this prologue is quality. Is it will get you killed every single time. So if quality is a concern now, especially with all of the hardware you have to play with and unlimited RAM and unlimited this and that, I go back to the 8 and 16 byte days. And if y'all can't make that work with all that you have, then I got nothing for you.
So, I gotta clear the air for a second. Number one, God of War, the first three. They're a special place in my heart. It's my culture right there. Greek God. My name is from the game. Ghost of Sparta.
Right.
I think they're
so
great.
what's your problem with the newer
I think the
ones, the
story could
last
have been
two?
better. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it was bad.
How much better can it be? You have a Greek god who killed the entire pantheon. Okay, damn near with his bare fucking hands. Okay,
Yeah.
to include Zeus. Then he moves over. So he leaves his area because of everything with the shit. It was all chaos.
But I have
and he left it that way. Wait, and he Paul, and he left it that way. He left all of Greece in absolute chaos, and he just left Greece. He fucked everything up, like to destruction, and just left it. Okay, and then he finds himself in like the Norse mythology, the Norse pantheon, their area. Now he fucks them up. He goes there, starts a whole other family.
All right.
Meets a
We got a little
woman
debate
who's a
right now.
frost giant, has a kid with her. Okay, everybody like Thor. I mean Odin. Stop playing with me, dude. Stop playing.
All right.
How much
Okay,
better of a story do you
time
want,
out.
man? How much better of a story do
That's
you
like a
want?
Okay,
black
you got a
dude.
problem with me. We have a comment, and it says the new God of War games are better than the old ones. I disagree.
The stories, man. Yeah, the stories are better. Like that was like the
I'll give you
overall
that.
story of this character, Kratos, the ultimate anti-hero. He's better than Wolverine, man. Like as an anti-hero, he doesn't care. This guy's an absolute psychopath, Paul. Okay, he does not care.
See where I got my nickname then?
You fuck with him, you get in his way, it's over. Like period. He doesn't care.
But
You know?
Manjo,
But he's the
sound like
hero of the story, and it's just
I mean,
like it's
no.
like wow.
doesn't he sound like a black man that do the same thing too?
No, we don't do that. We don't do that. No. This dude is something else altogether different.
David, give me one at least. A Greek guy actually is better for once. Come on, you can say it. They're gonna hurt you. Come on, spit it out. Come on, boy. Come here, boy. Say it, boy.
I plead the fifth.
No, fuck
And here's
you.
the thing, but here's the beauty of these last two games, though. You see the growth of that character. This same guy who in God of War 1, 2, and 3 was an absolute maniac.
It was an
Like I
asshole.
said, he left the entire world, Paul, in absolute chaos by killing all of the gods. So
I
there's
have a
no one.
question.
Wait, and the Titans. So now there's no one to govern anything. That's what I mean, chaos. Like even nature.
So wait,
itself,
so what's the
there's
point of
no
the game?
one-
You trying to beat him, even though he killed all the power guys? You're you're somehow going to be amped up if he can defeat all these Greek gods and everything.
He
It's a
did.
revenge. It's a revenge story, really. But
Yeah, he
But
did
then
all
who
the
are you
Zeus.
then? What are you
you're here.
Prometheus?
No,
Who are
you're
you then?
Kratos. You're Kratos, and you're gonna go around. Some of these guys are gonna help you. Some of them are gonna stand in your way. Some of them are gonna be enemies, flat out. Like even Hercules is like, dude, fuck you. You're a joke, and you just you beat him like one too.
Yeah.
Like,
So
like
let
it's
me.
just it's
I want to
the
ask you
thing
a serious
is
question.
the
Hang on a
story.
second.
But like it's in these last two, and I'll make this point. I'll shut up. You actually see the growth of this character. Like he went from an absolute maniac to you see the maturation of him, like what that did to him, like his actions. You see the growth and maturity of him. Then by the end of the second game, you're like, wow, this guy really is a complete. And it's not like it's something sudden, and it's not like it's something unexpected. The animal in him is still there, and it comes out when it wants to. Like in this last game, grooming. When when Thor shows up in the Odin shows up in the beginning, and they get into their
Oh, that
first
was
fight with
awesome.
Thor, that's what Thor wanted to see. This guy was like, Kratos is now kind of peaceful. He's like, listen, get out of here before shit gets ugly. Like the warnings. Before Kratos would have given no warning. You came in his house with disrespect, you were dead. Now he's like, go away, and he's holding back that whole fight. And Thor's like, nope, I want to see the real you. I want to see the real you. And then when he threatened Kratos' son, you actually see the real Kratos come out, and he clocks him in his face and knocks a tooth out in this scream, this big ass roar he makes. You know what I'm saying? With that punch, and then Thor's like, yeah, there he is. And
I
notice Thor
personally,
leaves
I
immediately after that.
I personally think Valhalla should have been the game of the year, hands down. But here's a question for my tech guys. I don't know if Paul can answer as much, but David definitely can. Coding. When you write a code for a game, it's a process. Is it harder for a regular game versus a VR game?
I'll tell you for both. See the problem. When you're building a code for a particular game, you are going through so many lines, making sure that the variable are set where they're supposed to be set. Because if you remember of the back in the day called thing called Mugen. Mugen was a gaming platform allow you to build your own
Oh, you
fighting
talking
game
about the
character.
Mugen? Yeah, Mugen. I
Yeah.
remember that.
When you learn how to build game from that, they start to understand building a game is not that simple. You know how many years it took them to build one Gran Turismo? 3 years. You're taking tons of pictures. That make it as realistic as you can get. Going through so many game coding, checking the mechanic, make sure everything run the way it's supposed to run. But it is not that simple to
Well,
build
again,
a.
that led to the crash of '83. They were pumping out games that should have took 6 months. They were cranking them out in 6 weeks. Again, because of the crowded field and the demands of
Yeah,
companies
the
and
Atari.
corporations and everything, Atari especially.
Atari
Yeah.
That's
did,
true.
yeah,
That's true.
Atari did.
So again, if they're not going to put the quality into producing something at the end, if it's about volume, then yeah, I mean, I think the past may repeat itself in the end.
It
And
may
again,
be,
but shameful though that again people seem to do more with less back then. Now you like so you
Yeah,
have all
like
these resources and you still can't.
just like I said with the Elder Scrolls games, the modders oftentimes do a much better job than the actual developers, and
mm,
they are working with less. They got the creation kit and their home PC. That's it, and it's and they do a much better job than the actual development team. It's crazy. They, like you said, they do. Some people do more with less, and I don't
say-
think you have that problem of the volume anymore. I think these companies are looking to make money, so they're
and
taking
that
longer to develop the video games. You know what
and
I mean? Because it does require more research and R&D and stuff like that. So you get a
but it's
game
not just
like
that
say
of
Grand,
but
hold on, you get one game like say Grand Theft Auto, which is I mean forever old, the fifth one now, and they're just now going to release a sixth one in 2026. They say late 2025. I don't believe that. It'll be sometime next year. Let's be real.
Hmm.
But it's just sad to see some of these studios like Bethesda, they refuse to modernize, and they think that their same formula is going to work that worked 11, 12 years ago now. It's like no. Since then you've had games like The Witcher 3, come out. You had Elden Ring that come out. These they're following kind of in Bethesda's footsteps, but they're taking what Bethesda did and taking it to the nth degree, to a whole nother level. And then you got like this past year a game like Black Myth Wukong, which is a game about the the Monkey King Song Wukong, Journey to the West. You heard that story?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's a game about that, and it is absolutely fantastic. Like a lot of people think it was a robbery that that game didn't get Game of the Year, including myself. You know what I mean? Like that should have been Game of the Year hands down. But you know, politics and all that. So anyway, you got, and it's a small studio with a very small team, but they took their time with the game. I think they announced that game like 5 years ago, and they showed like a small tech demo, and they put together a skeleton crew, Paul, and made a real banger of a game, man. Real, absolute is an absolute masterpiece. But you got Bethesda who refuses to modernize. There's been different engines that come out. You got the Unreal 5 engine now, and people are like, why don't you just use that instead of using the Gamebryo engine that you're doing? Because you're not doing a good job with that. And then they bring out Starfield, which is an absolute mess. Like it was. I bought that game, installed it, and played it first day, right? And I was like, okay, where's this? Where's that? How come I can't do this? How come I can't do that? I said, well, I guess I gotta wait either for an update or for the modders to do that job. The modders start working on that game, and guess what they did? They
Mm.
said, you know what? Screw this. This game sucks. I'm not doing this anymore. So a lot of modders just stopped doing it because Bethesda just did such a lazy job with the game. They're like, yeah, screw it. Why?
And
The
that's what I'm
modders
trying.
don't do, and they went back to modding Skyrim, which is a 12-year-old game at this point.
Mm.
But here's the thing, Mandro. A lot of these issues are coming from big company and buying out some of these small game developing company because when they're left alone, they're making masterpiece. But when they get purchased by these big name letters like Microsoft, for example, the quality they get have to go downhill. It's not the same no more like it used to. Because it,
I don't think that's it. I don't think it was Microsoft's fault in this one. I think it was just Bethesda. Honestly, I think it was just all them. But again, because look what they do. They refuse to innovate. What they did was innovative in the beginning with Skyrim, right? It was innovative. It was new. It was because there was no other. What other fantasy games were there? And remember at that time, you had Game of Thrones that just come out. It was new, and there was just no other games like that dealing with fantasy and dragons and stuff like that. So
Manu, when you're
it's
done
not
with
at
your
the
sentence,
same
I have a
time.
comment.
Go ahead.
I have a question actually. Number one, do you guys think the gaming companies are not listening to their fans?
Yes, I believe that wholeheartedly. Most of them don't.
Okay. My second question, David,
facts.
you guys something to say before I go?
Oh, same
So
thing.
the
I'm
second
agree with
question,
Mandro.
my second question, do you think gaming companies are not moving with the current times?
A lot of them do not.
Might get into detail with your answer, please.
My example here a minute ago was with Bethesda. Um, I said, Cody says, I didn't get that game because I don't want to be a monkey man. Okay, fair enough. But you're missing out. It's a good one. It's a good game. But fans would tell companies what they want. They'll say, well, look, we want to be able to do this, we want to be able to do that. And they just won't put it in. The developers just won't do it for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? For example, you remember Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now, Paul, in this game, the graphics were absolutely terrible, in my opinion. In my opinion,
Mm.
even for that time, I just like, ugh, you know, ugh. But it's a fun game. You can go into a gym, work out, and get buff. You can go into restaurants, different ones, eat too much food, and get fat. And you can or you could work out and get really skinny. You know what I'm saying? Like you can do a lot of running on a treadmill or whatever on cardio machines, get skinny, and like you can put on a lot of muscle. But if you don't eat enough, you start losing the muscle.
So what does this have to do with the game?
But it's just
That
something
is the
fun
game.
to do. That is,
But that's what I'm saying. I mean,
it's just
it's
a fun mechanic. Just a fun mechanic to do. Like you're in an open world, you want to be able to do these kind of things just to see if you can do it. You can do it. And but my point is like this: all these little knickknacks like that. Then comes Grand Theft Auto 5. Oh no, 4, and it's not in there anymore. It's like they went backward. Then 5 comes out, and it went backward again. Like they just didn't. It wasn't like that mechanic wasn't in there, and a lot of other things weren't either. It was just came. It became kind of mainstream. Then the microtransactions came into it, and it's like, oh crap, you
Fuck
know,
the game up. It fucked the game up completely.
right? And it's just like they're just not listening to the fans because the fans will say, "We want to be able to do this in your game. We want to be able to do that in your game," and they won't. They just won't do it when that would yield them.
But what happened to the joy of gaming? I get. I mean, later in the book, she talking about. I mean, immersion. I mean, Cody's talking about immersion. But I mean, it to me, it's like you're going down a bunch of rabbit holes that have nothing to do with, I guess, the main theme of the game, which I guess is to, if you're playing the antagonist, to basically to still get away with whatever it is that you're doing or whatever, without being caught by the cops or other rival gangs or whatever. There should be some tension that, you know, your player could die from the activities that they're doing. I would think that's where the stress is. You don't want to, you don't want to get found out or caught or whatever. But I'm going to be taking down the rabbit holes in terms of, you know, how much food I'm eating or how much exercise that I'm getting in. Again, to me, that's not that's in an area that's just not, has nothing to do with what I think is gameplay. Like I said, it's just like with the football. I mean, I thought the whole idea was you play, especially if it's 2-player, you playing against your friends or whatever, and the thrill was not only playing the game, winning, and talking trash to your friend that you beat them, but you're worried about the draft, you're worried about the uniforms, you're worried about the cheerleaders, you're worried about everything. You know, I guess you can have a game for, you know, be a GM or GM mode. And I guess some people may take an interest in that, you know, because everybody thinks, especially with fantasy now, everyone thinks they can build a dream team or whatever. They know what moves to make more than a GM would. But to me, it's about the game. It's like it's like with these games out there, like the Super Bowl, like the halftime show is not the game.
I will slightly push back on that because we see the game UFC. It had that feature where you have to build your fighter. You have to train your fighter. You have to train your fighter how to punch, how to kick, how to counter, have your fighter do the workout routine whatsoever. It build it. It make you like to add more points to add on to your character, so you guys get better percentage out of it. So in some kind of way, it does play a part. I heard the same thing also in the boxing game as well. Sometimes some of these things it adds up a long way because when I mentioned Diablo is one of those type of games with a lot of modification going on. You pick up weapon within the dungeon, you go somewhere and you craft a unique weapon that will benefit you. And when you do that over the period of time, type of what weapon is bad for you, what weapon is not bad for you. That's the thing about modification and all these little things that add in. But what man Joe was pointing out, it does make sense because if you're someone who's doing this survey, asking tons of people what feature you like in the game, you find out that they want this, they want that, they put it out there. But when you remove it, it kills your sales. That's exactly what it does.
Yeah, because people want immersion in their game now. That's what it's become to. Now, you do have the game, like Grand Theft Auto. You do have the story mode and all that. You know, you have all of that in there. It's still there. You can just do that. But my thing is, these are options that you can do just because. You know what I mean? Some people like doing that. Why would you take that away? Like, okay, it was a good feature that people like. Why would you take that feature away? I just didn't understand. I just didn't understand that.
Yeah, I guess I'm still trying to understand a little bit about that part, about why that is become such a demanding item in the game, rather than, again, having the experience of playing something, having a reward out of it, and then you know, coming back to it later on. Like I said, I'm still that guy. If a game can't give me enjoyment in about 15 to 20 minutes, it's not worth playing. Otherwise, again, I'm going to look around. It's like, oh my gosh, I've been on this game for 4 hours. I've been on for 5 hours. It's like, you know, I could have been fooling my wife at this time, but I've been gaming for 4 or 5 hours. I'm an idiot. So that's kind of how I think of it. I think everything is good. I'm not down anything, you know, but you know, moderation is key with me. And if you're saying you want to be so immersed that becomes your reality, then to me that's something else.
Paul, that is a problem with these kids. They literally forget everything. You're gonna have a freaking
It's not just
model
kids.
woman.
I'm talking about 35-year-old adults
I agree.
also.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing with that. People in general. Let me rephrase my comment. People in general forget about what's going on around. You're gonna have the hottest woman, Trish Stratus herself, and come her taste, rubbing her your face, and then be like, "Get out of my face! I'm playing the game." I'm like, dude, seriously, like, what's more important? You're a woman of the game. I'll pick my woman over the game any day of the week. But some people
But
don't care.
but
I
then
game
again,
here and there, but not like I'm not addicted to it.
but now you have a new generation of people, or more like a couple who play game together more than regular before. So a lot have changed over the years. So you have find people who mutual interest in playing game and they spend their time together. If you go online, YouTube, look at couple gaming setup, you will see the room whereby his or her PC have unique setup. What they either have mixed matching color, what is going on right now.
Mm,
So I get what you're coming from. It's right now. It's just that the gaming industry have really changed the type of group of people that we have today. We have the regular people who just play game for a few minutes. You got people who like to play game for an hour, two. And you got those who met each other on the game and they found their mutual interest in game. Either they're pro gamers or they like to be part of a particular community. Like the Star Wars game. That one, I know manager know this one, but these games almost go forever. The
mm.
Elder Scroll, the Diablo, the Warcraft. These like forever games. Like it never end.
Which I don't, I never understood the appeal of the World of Warcraft.
Me neither, to be honest with
Yeah.
you.
Cody asked a question. He says, would I rather play a game where I only have I said, would I play a shooter play a shooter that only has one gun or multiple? I think there's a compromise there. I think obviously that there's been games like my favorite game of all time is Galaga. That's like my favorite game. And the thing you always look for, you want to get in two gun mode as quickly as possible. But
Galaga?
if yeah, that's my favorite game of all time. But but the thing is, what I'd rather play. But I would say this: if you're going to have that one gun, you better be very good at it, which is also part of it as well. You know, what happened to the skills that you learned? You know, hand-eye coordination, working that joystick or that module or whatever, getting the timing down and right. Even in games like Pitfall or whatnot,
Play
there
fighting
was a
games.
gameplay that you had to get very good. Your hand-eye coordination, you develop that over time. And
Now,
so,
It's in all fighting. It's in the fighting games like Street Fighter.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
fighting,
You see, you missed out on all that.
so it is fighting
Street
game
Fighter,
and
Street Fighter
shooting
Two,
game.
man. Listen, I mean, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, they had Street Fighter, man. Listen, Street Fighter Two, yeah, that revolutionized fighting games, man. That's where the skill and all that stuff is. Then came Tekken and Tekken Two, which made a
Yeah,
quantum leap of all of it.
yeah. But I go back to even Karate Champ. Okay,
I know that.
1983
I
Karate
know
Champ.
that. Got your man, got your man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Hiya!
much noise.
Yacht!
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Got your man, got your man.
Exactly.
It's just a bunch of noise, man.
So I mean, there again, you playing against somebody, it could be like a split second you off between
But
knocking the guy out and you get knocked out. So again, it's that's the
but
thing. But yeah, you're gonna build the infinite gun or the infinite weapon that's gonna take out
but
90%
I'm
of the
glad
combatants
I'm glad
except
you
the
talk
final
about
boss at the end.
I'm glad you mentioned that because you talk about I'm not gonna mention Final does not fight in that thing. You have what's the game? Oh, was it Arena? No. This shooting guy. It's not Call of Duty. Call of Duty. The only people that perfect. Oh, you have Overwatch. Number one on that type of game.
Hmm.
The level of accuracy you can get on that game, if you're that good, come to a headshot or knock it out with one shot, it varied over time. There's another game that had the same game mechanic at Fortnite. Well, Eli, what other game you should play besides Fortnite? I tell you someone like Fortnite. What's the name of the game again? What other game that you someone like Fortnite that you play on the PS4? No, besides Overwatch. Hmm? Not Rocket League. The other one. No. I just forgot this game already. The Pandora, the Overwatch. There's another game that you all different type of guns, but your accuracy level, when you good and you're accurate, you get a certain type of point, and there's a ranking system in play. Apex Legends, yes, Apex Legends one, and Battlefield another thing, Counter Strike another one. Those games, eye coordination is key. PUBG is another one. Because here's the thing about these competitions. The way the game mechanic works, if your accurate level is high, your ranking go up high. When your ranking go up high, it puts you on the spotlight whereby when you playing these type of network game, people are gunning for you. They realize you're looking at your status, your ranking, your accuracy. They see your accuracy is high. They say, okay, this guy is a threat. We gotta take this guy out because this guy is good at coming to one shot kill. Those type of games dominate the gaming industry in a way whereby it enters into competition when people are winning money for it. Because there's one kid they thought the guy was cheating. I know Manjel saw the video on YouTube. They thought the guy was actually cheating in the game because the guy have high level accuracy. So what they did, they invite the boy to come to the company headquarters and they monitor him. I thought it was a joke. I watched the video. They did not believe this guy have a high level accuracy when it comes to shooting. It was ridiculous. Alien involved. So when that happened, they apologized. They first deactivated the account. They then later on apologized, reactivated, and asked them to play one of their gaming team because they're sponsoring the team. They didn't know this young kid was in Europe. This kid level accuracy was so amazing. He was getting a headshot, one shot kill over the place. So they had to pay him back for reimbursement because they thought he was actually cheating. So there are games that make you want to eye coordinate, make sure you know how to kill. Even though that's mobile game right now, they're going to the PC, it's the same thing too. I play to it well. So eye coordination is still key in some games, but yes, after a while, it can be constrained when you're using keyboard and mouse and you try to be accurate what you're shooting. Come on, that is ridiculous. It's a certain
I said
level of
it
skill
last
you got to
show.
have.
I said it last show. Military were recruiting kids when this Android thing started popping out like hot, early 2000s. It doesn't matter. You can pass boot camp. They can't. If you can play a video game, you're in the service. That's how easy it was.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on right now. So yes, you're right, Mr. Bennett. There are some games that still make you master your eye coordination. You have to be good at it. There's a
You were
grandpa who
exhausted. I mean, especially in some of those
this,
console games back, those arcade games back in the day. I mean, your hands would be like you'd be like
but hit
this
it,
after
but
a
hit it,
while, but you wouldn't
eh,
know until you got off because you were just playing for so long or whatever. It was so intense. I mean, you're sweating coming off. I mean,
did the
it was
Marine
like a
veteran,
physical exertion as much
but
as it
hit it
was
though.
a
The
mental
Marine
one.
veteran or Army veteran, he's an old guy. He's like a grandpa, but he played the type of battlefield game, and the way he got to be a high ranking man because his sniper ratio is ridiculous. He sniped people from a distance without using the scope, and everybody's afraid of him. I forgot what his name is. He's on YouTube, and he laughs about it. He said, "I like being on this game, and these young think they're all that good, and when I come in, I'm taking them all out easily. They're running from me, but they can't run because I already got them already. I wait for them
Mm.
to get to that same area, and then you can hear the, hi, how you got me? You can hear the visceral in their language. They're pissed how this man caught them. Now realize this is the actual army veteran. So you have vet, just like Mandrell, who play the type of army game, who are too damn good, who are good with a sniper in real life, and apply that skill set in the game to the point it's so disadvantage to any other player. So imagine Mandrell, who's the epic sniper, playing Epic Legend, and he's sniping the whole entire battlefield, and no one got a chance against him. And he's laughing like, dweeb. Imagine that type of fear. That's what used to be the Navy SOCOM game back in the days when they were afraid of playing against Navy SEAL because after Navy SEAL, you not give as a mental training.
You want to know something though? Confession here.
Uh oh.
I am a very, very skilled marksman in real life. I'm because I'm good. Listen, no kidding. I'm about to start teaching, giving marksmanship classes, and starting in late spring, early summer. And I'm actually taking it very seriously because I want to be able to teach a class where I can teach people to. I can give a person a class that qualifies them for a concealed carry permit or a gun permit. You know, the whole 9 yards, right?
Hmm.
So I'm taking it seriously. I want to be able to certify you to get licensing for whatever when it comes to firearms, right? Um, but I'm a very, very skilled marksman. That's what I was a natural at. Like I was really fucking good from the get go. Um, but when it comes to shooters on video games, I suck. I am absolute shit, dude. Like the Call of Duty and all that, I am horrible. I am absolutely terrible at
It's two
video game
different things
shooters.
too.
I can't get it down. Listen, minute, help me out here, dude. I can't. I don't
Well,
understand.
look, I don't think
Like how
it's
am I?
intended to even mimic. Because even like back in the day with the
I
NES,
don't
you played
understand.
Duck
I
Hunt
suck.
on with that gun. I don't know how
Yeah.
accurate that thing was. 'Cause I could swear I was hitting that thing dead on and whatnot.
Same
And
here, man. This is the
so
thing.
so
I
again,
suck
I don't
in
think
video game
they're
shooters.
building a lot of accuracy into it. It's more so you have to learn, I guess, whatever you need to learn in order to play the game. But it's not going to mimic all that training that you got in as a marksman in the mill. You got to basically unlearn all that and just go with what the gameplay is rather than what your skill set will get you. Because I don't think anybody is coming out with, even in the VR space, I don't know if anyone's developing that level of accuracy where you can model.
Well, here's the thing.
You know,
Now, what the thing is, like in real life, dry fire does help. Dry fire does help. In real life, and you can do that inside your house, right? They got equipment there that like where there's a laser round. It's a dummy round, but it's a laser round. You squeeze the trigger once the hammer hits the dummy round, it shoots a laser at the target. And the target comes with the package too, and you can like working your draw speed, accuracy, and the whole nine with a real gun. You know, but it's even that's very different from video games. That's an actual simulation of firing a firearm because you are firing a firearm, but you're getting your target practice too without using live fire.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, but here's the thing: like, quick story in basic training, and I'll tell this during my interview too, which we can do either this coming weekend or the next weekend. Groomy, I'll give you a call or shoot you a text tomorrow and lock that down with you. Actually,
Okay.
lock down the interview so we can actually have it on the books.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I was in basic training. Comes down to we finally get to shoot the M16, right? I'm like, yeah, we get to shoot a fucking gun, right? So we go there, and I'm all over the paper, and I'm in center mass. I have no clue what's going on. I'm like, oh my god, I suck at this. I was really good at the combatives, the hand-to-hand combat. I was really, really good at that. I'm throwing
Mm-hmm.
people over the place, tripping them, fucking them up. People are in on the neck, on the heads. I got them in chokeholds and shit. It's just so. I said, okay, guns. I finally get to do this. I'm paying attention to every word the cadre tells us about range safety, how to aim, how to breathe. And I put everything step by step into practice. I'm all over the paper. So then one of my drill sergeants, the cadre, comes up and says, hey, Harris, come here a second. So I cleared my weapon, you know, get out of the hole. Because you're in a hole. They have you in a hole when you do your target practice, right? So I come up. He says, come with me. He takes me to the unit armorer who had his little van out there. Like, dude, like 3 minutes. I handed my weapon. Like 3 minutes, if that. This guy hands it back to me. I said, was there something wrong with it? He said, yeah, but I fixed it. I said, that fast? He said, yeah, got it. Said, okay. He said, try it now. So no problem. So I told him, drill sergeant, hey, he says he fixed it. They pulled everyone else off the range.
Mm.
Gave me new paper, put on the target. So all eyes are on me. All the rest of the candidates in basic training, all of the cadre, everyone's looking at me. I didn't give a shit because I was sitting there and I focused on the target. And at that time, we did 3 round shots for qualification. So I shot all 3 center mass. I'm shooting on top of my targets. I'm shooting on I'm that good at it. Like that was my first day ever shooting an M16. First time ever putting one in my hands. So they gave me another magazine with 3 rounds. Again, those 3 rounds are on top of the first 3. It's like, well, he shot the shit out of that. That's all right, Harris. Come on out, because normally they let you go further than that. They gave me six rounds, and had done so well. They just pulled me. They like, yeah, you're good, no problem. You know what I mean? It's like, how much? So your dad take you shooting? No. Your dad's never taken you shooting? No. Who took you shooting? Nobody. Well, my uncle did when he taught me how to hunt, but that's about it. I mean, he would shoot the deer or the whatever, but that's
Man,
so.
I mean to cut you off, but
I'm
even
that
Chris
good
Kyle.
in real life, right? I'm that good in sniper, training to be a sniper. Holy shit, Grommy, I'm very, very good at this.
Yeah, I was going to use that for example. Chris Kyle, he was a natural. He was like 100 kills on some stupid shit number like that. That's why they called him the legend at one point because he was so good. He saw a snake in the yard. He goes, "A snake! No, come on!" He starts to go. He show us. Popped him on it. It was freaking out there. He had incredible instincts. It was like something from a comic book. But
Yeah,
anyway, guys,
some
coming
people are
in.
just like some people are just like that. But my point is, like, I'm that good in real life. Video games, though, first person shooters and video games, I fucking suck. I don't know what it is.
Listen,
man.
maybe one day they'll develop something like the holodeck that'll simulate real combat. But until then, yeah, stay in the field. Go to your. Do you still go down to like where you're at now? Do you still go down to Quantico or whatever and get on the range and stuff? Is that still something you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. See.
So before we go our final thoughts, one thing I want to say. Yeah, I'm not sure they still have this, but at one point they were using VR to train soldiers to shoot and stuff like that. Andrew, you maybe can you touch base on that, or are you not familiar with that? What I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar with the VR.
Yeah, they had a VR system going. I'm not sure if they still use it or not. This was like early 2010s, I think it was. You put goggles on it. You had a rifle. It kicks back like a rifle, and you had a little pad, like a chest thing. If you got shot, it will zap your ass. It was not to the point you get hurt, but it was so it'd be. You felt it. Let's put it this way.
Right.
So by that said, that's they were using video games in the service either. But let's get our final thoughts. David first, Paul next, and Mandarin next, and I'll finish up with the schedule.
The game class era. This is a very interesting topic. I think we have to venture back on this and do a part two to this because we're going on different era of the game class. From 1983, I believe the next one was 1988, 1989, and the most recent one had to be around 1992, 93. I'm not sure. But each of these game class, it brought about a dilemma that people was looking at. What will the change in the gaming industry? What it going to be like? How it will survive? Who will last? Who will fail? Who will get acquired? Who will lose money? It's a very interesting conversation. I hope that this video go out there and anyone who watched the video, please leave your comment. Put your 2 cents on this. What do you remember? Do you remember the game class era of 1983? If you have more information, put it down there. Remember when the change took place in 1988, 1989, and so on. So please leave your comment, leave your view. You want to read some of these things so we can bring it back if we have it to the next episode. This is a very, very, very interesting topic. I love this topic for real. Other than that, this is a great show. But on to the next.
All right. Well, again, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I represent again the ancient of ancients. All right. So I go back to paper airplanes and tag and all that kind of stuff, and then you had the console that just had you had the knob, and it was just a thing that went up and down like this. So you played Pong, you played tennis, you did doubles and whatnot. So again, I just come from an earlier era. But again, I remember the game boom from 80. I say from 79 to 83 was a great era, especially for arcades and arcade style gaming, and even the home gaming market. Even though it wasn't as good, still you had a lot of fun. One, because of the guys who you were playing with. We didn't have online. You weren't playing people all over the world. It was just some guys because it was too much rain or the weather was inclement. You couldn't go out there and play football or baseball or something like that, so you just played inside. So we had a good time. But again, too many consoles. As I said at the beginning of the show, at one time you probably had 12 to 15 different platforms for which to play video games at home with, including computers. And the games that came out were very crappy at the same time. Again, but everybody was managing about 8 bytes back then. and they weren't putting the quality in even to get the most out of the 8 bytes that they were able to. Games like Pitfall, the exceptions to that. And then again, folks got greedy, and consumers had enough of it. But again, thank goodness for Nintendo. Came out with the NES in '85 and revitalized everything. And so, and from what I'm hearing tonight, there have been certainly many highs and lows. You had a similar sort of crash, if you will, in the late '80s, going into the '90s. Computer gaming came on, and then that's when I, kind of made my exit. But like I said, I became mostly a computer gamer. But I wasn't, I wasn't going to be all in building the ultimate platform to keep playing. I kind of got on with things. So honestly, I kind of fell out of video games altogether, except for the MAME platform that allowed me to play all my favorite arcade games on my computer. So certainly, I was able to live a sort of a retro existence for many years, and then you figure the even today is whatever's on my smartphone. But most of the games on my smartphone, like I said, I can get a decent game or round of a game in about 15 to 20 minutes. But I'm not going on these long campaigns, these long exhibitions, these things where you have hours of time before you even play, just spending time setting up. And so, that's not my area. I think that, again, video games, it could be a healthy pastime. But like I said, too much of anything can be bad for you after a while. I do hope that some of the folks who are spending hours and playing games spend some more time working on your social skills and getting out and meeting people. And it's great if you find somebody who in the gaming community that you wind up meeting and dating and marrying and all that kind of stuff. It's great when you hear stories like that. But I don't know if that's the norm. I think that's more the exception than the norm. But again, I think it could be certainly a very healthy outlet, and there's a lot of other more dangerous things you could be doing. I mean, drinking and driving and doing all kinds of, illicit, things you could be doing that is certainly more harmful to you. But even with games, too much of anything can be an obsession. So I hope that people find some balance to your lives and not get so caught up in the pursuits that you miss the bigger picture. I just got back from some travel. I think, if you get a chance, see the world some more, travel, see more of what, and how fortunate that you are, especially if you live in the United States. I think there's other pursuits that you can certainly add in. But yeah, if I got 15, 20 minutes, I'll put it down on a game. And, certainly it, definitely helps to clear my mind and take my mind off what I need to in order to get to something else. But it's not an obsession for me anymore. So that's all I got on that. I think Ghost, he had to, I don't know if Ghost is there, if you can switch to Mandrell, or Mandrell, if you can speak. Yeah, there you go. So if you can just
I'm here.
Close this out.
Yeah, to close this out, video games have come a long way since the '80s, and I do remember that crash. Well, I was very young, and I remember hearing a little about it. But then, later with documentaries and everything like that, that's when I get to see the whole thing. But I agree, it can be a healthy pastime. Just to find other interests, get outside, go play sports, do something. Don't make it your life. Some people now with the invention of streaming and YouTube and everything, they make a living playing video games. Do that if you can. Cool. I got no problem with that. Just don't quit your day job to invest all time in that, because you can work a full-time job, then come home and then stream, for like 2 hours, and then get your numbers up and all that. Just don't get done with it, is what we're saying. And that's it. Thanks for having me.
So, guys, really fast. I love gaming. I really hope we don't get crashed. I hope this goes well for us. It's just something I am concerned is going to happen. But really fast, let me do a quick schedule update. We are having the greater. I'm going to speak to Paul in the background what topic we're talking about. I'm still not positive because I'm going back and forth with a couple ideas. So for the next couple weeks, the schedule is going to be this week. Paul didn't know about this. We're talking about X-ray content is bad for your brain if it's toxic or not. Then on next Saturday, the 11th, we'll be talking Voltron, A Legend of Heroes. Then on the 16th, we're going to be talking about the unspoken rule, why women can bar shame us, but we cannot do vice versa. And on the 18th, and this is another topic Paul gave me an idea for, is paper versus screen, movie versus book. I really am curious what you guys think. Except that, as always, please hit the like. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. This was a Spartan HQ Network. This was the Operation Hangout. I'll see you guys next one. Stay safe, stay fresh, and see you in the next one.